You begin at the edge of emptiness, a place that feels more like a pause than a location. There is no floor beneath you, no sky above you, only a gentle sense of waiting. In this quiet, matter and antimatter are not yet things you can hold. They are ideas, possibilities hovering like breath before a word is spoken. You are invited to rest here, where existence has not decided what shape it will take. You imagine the smallest pieces of the universe not as solid dots, but as murmurs. Particles are not tiny stones, they are soft events, brief gatherings of energy that appear and disappear. They do not shout their presence. They whisper. They flicker in and out of being, as if unsure whether they want to stay. In this place, nothing is fixed, and that uncertainty feels strangely comforting. You notice that even nothingness has texture. Empty space is not truly empty. It hums quietly, alive with potential. Physics tells you that the vacuum is restless, filled with subtle fluctuations, like a calm sea hiding slow-moving currents beneath its surface. Pairs of particles and antiparticles briefly rise together, touch for a moment, and then dissolve back into silence. Creation and erasure happen constantly, softly, without drama. You let this idea settle, something can come from almost nothing, and then return again. Existence is not a permanent state, but a gentle rhythm. This is the first lesson the universe offers you tonight. Being is temporary, but that does not make it meaningless. In fact, its briefness is what gives it shape. You turn your attention to symmetry, the quiet balance that seems to guide the cosmos. For every kind of matter, there exists a matching antimatter partner, reversed in subtle ways. Charges flip. Directions invert. It is as if the universe enjoys writing everything twice, once forward and once backward, just to see how it feels. This symmetry is not cold or mechanical. It feels intentional, almost tender. Here, at the edge of everything, symmetry feels emotional. It suggests fairness, a desire for balance, a sense that nothing should exist alone. Matter does not appear without its mirror nearby. Even before stars, before atoms, before light has a chance to stretch out, this balance is already present, woven into the rules themselves. You think about touch. In your everyday life, touch feels simple. One thing meets another, pressure is exchanged, boundaries are acknowledged. But at the deepest level, touch is an illusion. Particles never truly make contact. They are held apart by forces, by invisible fields that prevent them from merging completely. Even now, as your body rests, the atoms within you are mostly empty space, separated by gentle repulsions. So when you hear the phrase "when nothing touches nothing," it begins to make sense. Matter does not collide the way stones do. Interactions happen through fields, through exchanges of energy, through quiet agreements between particles. Contact is a conversation, not a collision. And in this conversation, antimatter speaks the same language, only with a different accent. You imagine a single particle drifting through the void. It carries properties like mass and charge, but it is not a tiny marble. It is more like a note in a long, ongoing song. Its antimatter partner carries the same melody, but played in reverse. When they encounter each other, something remarkable happens. They do not argue. They do not resist. They simply transform. Annihilation sounds violent, but here, at this level, it is peaceful. Matter and antimatter meet and release themselves into pure energy. They become light, motion, warmth spreading outward. Nothing is destroyed. Everything is rearranged. It is less like an explosion and more like a sigh. You stay with this image, letting it slow your thoughts. Two opposites meeting, not to fight, but to complete a cycle. In that meeting, individuality dissolves, but meaning remains. The universe does not mourn the loss of particles. It continues, carrying their energy forward into new forms. You realize that absence carries weight. The fact that something could be here, but is not, matters. The early universe was filled with both matter and antimatter, nearly equal in number. Most of it vanished through countless tiny annihilations, leaving behind a small excess of matter. That leftover is everything you know. Galaxies, stars, planets, your own breathing body all exist because of a slight imbalance. This thought settles gently into you. You are here because something did not cancel out completely. Because symmetry was almost perfect, but not quite. The universe leaned just a little toward matter, and that small preference became oceans, forests, and listening minds. Existence is the echo of that imperfection. You breathe slowly, imagining the early universe as a warm, dense fog, filled with light and potential. Particles emerge, pair up, and disappear again. Over time, the fog thins. Space expands. The rhythm changes. What remains begins to organize itself into more lasting patterns. Time itself seems to stretch and relax. In this calm reflection, science does not feel distant. It feels personal. The same rules that guide antimatter also shape your body. Forces hold you together without anything truly touching. Energy flows through you, changing form but never vanishing. You are not separate from these ideas. You are one of their expressions. You let go of the need to fully understand. Tonight is not about mastering equations or memorizing terms. It is about feeling the shape of reality, sensing how delicate and balanced it is. Knowledge arrives like a tide, slowly, without effort. You allow it to wash over you. As your awareness drifts, you notice a quiet curiosity forming. If antimatter is a mirror, what does it reflect? If every particle has a twin, why does one side remain while the other fades? These questions do not demand answers yet. They simply rest with you, soft and open. The universe, it seems, is not in a hurry. It reveals its secrets gradually, inviting patience and wonder. And as you linger at this edge where nothing quite touches anything else, you feel a gentle pull toward that waiting mirror, where familiar particles may soon show you their reversed, reflected faces. You sense that this beginning is intentionally slow, like the first steps of a long walk taken in the dark. Each idea is placed carefully, not to challenge you, but to keep you company. The universe does not rush its introductions. It sits beside you, allowing silence between thoughts, allowing space for rest. In this softness, curiosity feels safe, and rest feels earned. You are not required to solve anything. You are only asked to notice, to listen, and to remain open as the quiet reflection ahead begins to sharpen, just slightly, into the shape of understanding. Soon, you will drift closer to that reflection, where the universe shows you itself, reversed, balanced, and waiting in perfect quiet symmetry. You move gently closer to the mirror the universe has been holding for you. It does not flash or sparkle. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, calm and patient, reflecting matter with quiet precision. Antimatter is not an opposing force, not a villain waiting to erase everything you know. It is a reflection, as natural and reserved as your own image in still water. You imagine standing before a mirror at night, the room dim, your outline softened. The reflection is unmistakably you, yet reversed. Raise your right hand, and the reflection lifts its left. Nothing is wrong. Nothing is broken. The difference is not a threat. It is simply perspective. This is how antimatter exists alongside matter, following the same rules, wearing the same structure, but facing the opposite direction in subtle, fundamental ways. In physics, every particle carries a small set of traits, like a quiet personality. Mass, electric charge, spin. Antimatter keeps the mass, keeps the spin, but flips the charge. Positive becomes negative. Direction reverses. It is symmetry written into reality itself, not as decoration, but as foundation. The universe seems to insist that nothing should exist alone, without its counterpart waiting somewhere nearby. You feel how deeply this balance runs. Long before atoms form, before light stretches freely through space, symmetry is already present. It feels almost comforting, as if the universe prefers fairness. For every step forward, there is a step back. For every presence, an absence shaped just like it. This balance does not guarantee survival, but it guarantees order. And yet, this mirror is rarely seen. Antimatter does not linger in your everyday world. The moment it encounters ordinary matter, the reflection dissolves. Not in anger, but in completion. They meet, and both disappear into energy, like two notes resolving into silence. Because of this, antimatter remains hidden, existing mostly in fleeting moments or distant cosmic events. You let this idea settle slowly. Antimatter is rare here not because it is forbidden, but because the environment is already full. Matter dominates your surroundings, leaving little room for its mirror to remain intact. The universe is not rejecting antimatter. It is simply crowded. This makes the mirror feel shy, tucked away in darkness, visible only when conditions are just right. In laboratories, scientists work carefully to glimpse it, to coax it into existence without letting it touch anything else. Magnetic and electric fields become invisible frames, holding the reflection steady for a moment longer. Even then, it never stays long. The mirror fades as soon as it is noticed. You sense how patient this reflection must be. It does not demand permanence. It appears when invited, vanishes when touched, and never resists its role. There is something deeply calm about this behavior. Antimatter does not fight matter. It completes it. You begin to understand that balance does not mean sameness. Symmetry allows difference. The mirror does not erase you, it defines you. Without the possibility of antimatter, matter would lose part of its meaning. The rules would feel incomplete, unfinished. The universe would be less elegant. As your thoughts slow, you imagine the early universe again, younger and warmer, filled equally with matter and antimatter reflections dancing together. In that dense beginning, the mirror was everywhere. Particles met their twins constantly, dissolving into light, filling space with energy. It was not destruction. It was harmony playing itself out at unimaginable scales. Somewhere in that process, the balance tipped slightly. Not enough to break symmetry entirely, but enough to leave a trace. That trace is everything solid, you know. But the mirror never vanished completely. It remains written into the laws themselves, waiting for the right moment to appear again. You feel a gentle appreciation for this restraint. Nature does not rush to show you everything at once. It hides its mirrors, not out of secrecy, but out of respect for stability. Too much symmetry, and nothing remains. Too little, and chaos takes over. The universe balances carefully between these extremes. You rest with this idea, letting it echo softly. Balance is not loud. It does not announce itself. It works quietly, behind the scenes, ensuring that existence can continue without collapsing into sameness or disorder. Antimatter is part of that quiet work, unseen but essential. As your breathing deepens, the mirror feels less abstract. You recognize it in your own life, in the way opposites shape meaning. Light feels brighter because darkness exists. Rest feels sweeter because movement came before it. The universe repeats this pattern everywhere, from emotions to particles. The mirror does not shatter when you look into it. It waits. It holds steady, even when ignored. Antimatter does not demand to dominate reality. It simply insists on being possible. That possibility keeps the universe honest, reminding it that every rule has a reflection, every path a reversal. You feel curiosity soften into calm wonder. If antimatter is a mirror, who first noticed the reflection? Who listened closely enough to mathematics and nature to realize that the equations were showing more than one side? This thought drifts gently forward, preparing you for the human moment that comes next, when a quiet mind hears something unexpected hidden in numbers. As the mirror remains still and patient in the dark, you sense that someone, somewhere, is about to notice it for the first time, simply by paying attention to the way the universe whispers through symbols and dreams. You drift now into a quieter space, one shaped not by machines or collisions, but by thought. Here, discovery does not arrive with noise or spectacle. It arrives softly, through symbols written on paper, through patience, through listening. This is where a human mind notices something the universe has been whispering all along. You imagine Paul Dirac sitting alone, surrounded by stillness. Not dramatic stillness, but the ordinary quiet of a room where nothing interrupts concentration. The world outside continues its motion, but inside, time seems to slow. Dirac is not chasing discovery. He is following elegance. He believes that the universe prefers beauty, and that the most truthful equations are also the most graceful. You feel the mood of this moment. Mathematics here is not calculation. It is language. Each symbol is a note, each line a phrase. Dirac listens carefully, trusting that if the math feels right, nature will agree. This trust is unusual. It requires patience, humility, and a willingness to accept strange conclusions. At the time, physics is struggling. Existing equations describe particles well enough at slow speeds, but they fail when motion approaches the speed of light. The universe behaves differently when energy rises. Dirac wants an equation that respects both quantum mechanics and relativity, something smooth enough to hold them together without tearing. As you follow his thinking, you notice how gently the solution unfolds. Dirac writes an equation that works beautifully, but it carries an unexpected gift. It predicts solutions that seem impossible at first. Negative energy states. Particles that look like known ones, but reversed. The mathematics insists they exist. This is the quiet moment where listening matters most. Dirac could have dismissed these solutions as errors, mathematical nonsense to be trimmed away. Many would have. But the equation feels too elegant to be wrong. Instead of forcing it to behave, he allows it to speak. And what it says is strange and profound. The equation suggests a mirror world embedded within the same rules. For every electron, there should be another particle with the same mass, but opposite charge. A reflection, hidden but real. Dirac does not call it antimatter yet. He simply accepts that the math is showing him something unfamiliar. You feel how bold this acceptance is. To trust an abstract equation over intuition requires courage. Dirac does not need experimental proof yet. He believes that nature will eventually reveal what mathematics has already seen. This belief feels almost meditative, like trusting your breath to continue even when you are not watching it. Years later, experiments confirm the prediction. The positron is discovered, an electron's mirror made real. What once lived only on paper now leaves tracks in detectors, brief lines of light marking its passage. The universe nods gently, as if saying yes, this too belongs. You sit with the realization that antimatter is not imagined into existence. It is noticed. It is uncovered by listening deeply enough. Discovery, in this sense, feels less like creation and more like remembering something that was always there, waiting patiently. The dream Dirac follows is not loud or dramatic. It is soft, persistent, and unfinished. Even now, the equations continue to guide physicists toward deeper symmetries, deeper reflections. Mathematics becomes a kind of meditation, a way of aligning the human mind with the structure of reality. You notice how personal this feels. One person, listening carefully, changes how humanity understands existence. Not through force, but through attention. Not through certainty, but through trust in quiet beauty. The universe does not shout its truths. It offers them gently, to those willing to stay still long enough. As your thoughts slow, you sense that this story is not only about physics. It is about how knowledge arrives. How understanding grows not by grabbing, but by allowing. Dirac's dream reminds you that insight often comes when you stop demanding answers and start listening instead. You breathe calmly, imagining equations floating like constellations, each symbol connected by invisible lines of meaning. Somewhere within them, mirrors hide, reflections waiting to be noticed. The universe does not rush this process. It is content to wait decades, centuries, until the right mind is ready. You feel a quiet continuity forming. Antimatter is no longer just a concept or a mirror. It is a promise kept by mathematics. A reminder that reality is deeper than appearance, richer than first impressions. What you see is only part of what exists. As this chapter settles, the dream does not end. It drifts forward, unfinished, pointing toward the next question. If antimatter is real, if mathematics can call it into view, how does it actually come into being? Where does the universe find the energy to shape these fragile reflections, born briefly from silence itself? You arrive now at a place where silence does not mean nothingness. It means readiness. This is where particles are born, not from noise or force, but from carefully arranged conditions. Creation here is subtle, almost shy, unfolding at the edge of what can be noticed. You feel as though you are standing very still, so still that the universe feels safe enough to begin. Antimatter does not emerge casually. It is coaxed into existence when energy gathers itself with just the right precision. In the vast machines humans build, particles are accelerated, guided, and gently encouraged to meet. Their motion grows faster, their energy deeper, until movement itself becomes heavy enough to condense. Energy slows, curls inward, and briefly takes on form. You imagine this process like dew forming on cool grass before dawn. Nothing dramatic announces it. The air simply reaches a point where holding moisture becomes possible. In the same way, energy reaches a threshold where becoming matter feels natural. A particle appears. And with it, its reflection. Antimatter is never born alone. The universe insists on balance at the moment of creation. When energy becomes matter, it divides itself evenly. A particle and its antimatter partner emerge together, like twins opening their eyes at the same instant. Their existence is shared from the very beginning. You sense how delicate this birth is. The moment these twins appear, they are already at risk of vanishing again. The surrounding world is filled with matter, and contact would end them both. So their first moments are carefully protected, guided away from danger by invisible fields. It takes effort just to let them exist for a fraction of a second. In laboratories, humans recreate these births again and again. Not out of carelessness, but curiosity. They want to understand the rules deeply enough to watch creation happen without interference. They build rings of magnets, long tunnels where particles race close to the speed of light. The machines hum softly, like sleeping giants breathing. You feel the patience involved. Nothing here is rushed. Each collision is planned, each measurement careful. Scientists wait for signs, for brief flashes of light or delicate traces in detectors. When antimatter appears, it leaves only a whisper of evidence behind. A curved line, a burst of energy, a momentary glow. Beyond Earth, the universe performs the same act on a grander scale. In violent cosmic environments, near stars and exploding remnants, energy surges freely. There, antimatter is born naturally, again and again. High-energy rays strike atoms in space, creating particle pairs that flicker into being and fade away. Even the cosmos practices this quiet creativity. You notice how fleeting these moments are. Antimatter lives briefly, often less than a heartbeat, before returning to energy. Yet during that short existence, it is fully real. It carries mass, charge, momentum. It obeys the same laws as everything else. Its short life does not make it incomplete. This idea settles gently into you. Duration does not define importance. Some things exist only briefly and still matter deeply. Antimatter teaches this lesson without words. It appears, fulfills its role, and transforms. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is lost. You imagine energy as a calm ocean, usually spread thin and invisible. Under the right conditions, waves rise, gather, and briefly crest into form. Particles are those crests. Antimatter is the mirrored wave, rising alongside. When they fall back, the ocean remains, unchanged yet enriched by the motion. As you rest with this image, creation feels less mysterious and more intimate. It is not a distant act locked in the past. It is happening constantly, quietly, everywhere. Even now, space around you hums with potential, with tiny fluctuations that could, under the right circumstances, become something more. You feel a sense of humility. Existence is fragile, balanced on fine edges. The fact that anything persists at all feels like a gift of conditions aligning just right. Antimatter shows you how easily things could vanish, and how carefully the universe maintains what remains. The machines that create antimatter are not trying to dominate nature. They are trying to listen to it, to reproduce its rhythms on a smaller scale. When they succeed, the result is not control, but understanding. A brief glimpse into how reality assembles itself from silence. You breathe slowly, imagining those first instants after the universe began, when energy filled everything. Creation then was not rare. It was constant. Particles and antiparticles formed everywhere, met, and dissolved. Over time, the conditions changed. Space expanded. Temperatures dropped. Creation slowed, becoming more selective. Now, births like these are precious and rare. They require intention. They require care. Antimatter reminds you that creation is not guaranteed. It depends on balance, patience, and circumstance. Nothing exists simply because it must. It exists because the universe allows it to. As your thoughts soften, you sense how this chapter fits into a larger flow. Antimatter can be born, briefly held, carefully observed. But how do you keep something alive when it cannot touch the world around it? How do you hold what vanishes at the slightest contact? The question forms gently, without urgency. Somewhere ahead, invisible hands are waiting, made not of flesh, but of fields, learning the long, patient work of holding the unholdable without ever touching it at all. You move now into a space where patience is the most powerful tool. Here, the challenge is no longer creation, but care. Antimatter can be born, briefly and beautifully, yet it cannot be held in any ordinary way. The moment it touches the familiar world, it disappears. So the question becomes gentle and profound: how do you keep something without ever letting it touch anything at all? You imagine trying to hold a soap bubble in open air. Your fingers cannot close around it. The slightest contact would end it. To keep it intact, you would need to guide the air itself, shaping invisible currents, allowing the bubble to hover without pressure. This is how antimatter must be treated. Not grasped, not contained, but balanced. In laboratories, scientists learn this quiet skill. They do not build boxes or jars. They build fields. Electric and magnetic forces become their tools, forming cages with no walls. These fields do not touch antimatter directly. They simply persuade it, gently guiding its path, holding it in place through influence alone. You feel the elegance of this solution. Antimatter carries charge, and charged things respond to fields. By arranging magnets and electrodes just so, researchers create regions where antimatter prefers to stay. It is not forced. It is invited. The particle hovers, suspended in a carefully tuned landscape of forces. This work requires extraordinary calm. Any fluctuation, any vibration, any stray particle can end the experiment instantly. The environment must be nearly perfect. Temperatures are lowered. Pressures reduced. Even stray atoms are removed, leaving a vacuum so clean it feels like silence itself. You notice how different this is from the way humans usually interact with the world. Most tools rely on contact, on pushing and pulling. Here, control comes from restraint. From knowing when not to touch. Stillness becomes an achievement, not an absence of action. Antimatter storage happens one particle at a time. Each success is small, measured in seconds, minutes, sometimes hours. There is no hoarding, no abundance. Just careful presence. A single antiparticle held gently in place is already a triumph. You sense how much humility this demands. Nature is not conquered here. It is cooperated with. The universe allows antimatter to remain only under strict conditions, and humans must learn those conditions precisely. Any impatience is punished instantly with disappearance. As you rest with this idea, it begins to feel familiar. In your own life, some things can only be held lightly. Emotions, moments, relationships. Grasp too tightly, and they break. Antimatter becomes a teacher, showing that preservation sometimes means distance, sometimes means space. The machines designed for this work hum softly, maintaining their invisible grip. Inside them, antimatter floats, never touching metal, never brushing against air. It exists in a kind of suspension, neither free nor confined. It simply is, for as long as the balance holds. You imagine the fields themselves, unseen yet precise, like slow-moving currents in deep water. They curve and bend, guiding particles along paths chosen with care. Nothing about this is rushed. Everything is deliberate. This long work teaches another quiet truth: existence often depends on constant effort. Stability is not automatic. It is maintained, moment by moment, through balance and adjustment. Even things that seem still are supported by ongoing processes beneath the surface. Antimatter cannot rest on a shelf. It must be actively held, constantly. The moment the fields turn off, it is gone. This makes its presence feel precious. Temporary. Earned anew each instant. You breathe slowly, letting this rhythm settle. Holding without touching. Guiding without forcing. Allowing without possessing. These ideas repeat gently, like a mantra. Scientists do not measure success here by how much antimatter they store, but by how long they can keep it. Time becomes the currency. Each additional second is a victory. Each extended moment a confirmation that understanding has deepened. You feel how this shifts perspective. The value is not in accumulation, but in duration. Not in control, but in harmony. Antimatter remains only when everything else behaves. This delicate balance mirrors the universe itself. Stars burn steadily only because opposing forces remain in equilibrium. Galaxies hold together because motion and gravity negotiate endlessly. Nothing lasts without balance. As you drift deeper into calm, you realize that holding the unholdable is not just a technical challenge. It is a philosophy. It asks for respect, for attentiveness, for acceptance of limits. It reminds you that some things exist only when you stop trying to own them. Antimatter floats, briefly, patiently, teaching through its fragility. It does not promise permanence. It offers presence instead. And presence, when it must be renewed constantly, becomes something sacred. You sense the next movement approaching. Holding is not the end of the story. Eventually, the fields will relax. The balance will release. When antimatter is allowed to meet matter at last, something luminous happens. For now, you rest in this stillness, in the quiet achievement of keeping something alive by never touching it, knowing that soon, the universe will allow the meeting, and with it, a transformation as gentle and powerful as thunder heard from very far away. You drift now toward a space where inevitability meets grace. Here, the long work of holding the unholdable gives way to a meeting both brief and profound. Matter and antimatter, once kept apart by careful hands and invisible fields, approach one another with quiet inevitability. The moment feels charged, yet gentle, like two old friends finally acknowledging each other across a room. Annihilation has a dramatic name, yet its reality is soft and precise. You watch not an explosion, but a transformation. When particle meets antiparticle, mass does not vanish. It changes form. It becomes energy, radiating outward as light, as movement, as something intangible yet wholly real. The universe whispers that endings are not destruction, but transitions. You imagine this encounter like a gentle thunderclap, heard not up close, but from a distance across a valley. There is intensity, yes, but it does not startle. It reverberates slowly, carrying warmth and illumination, spreading outward in a rhythm that feels natural, almost meditative. The energy of the meeting flows like breath, expanding into space without violence, without surprise. Each particle contributes fully to this transformation. It is not a struggle, nor a resistance. Matter does not fight. Antimatter does not resist. They meet, exchange, and together become something different. The conversion feels intimate. You might even call it a form of cooperation, a silent agreement that they will continue in another guise, as energy rather than as substance. You notice how patterns emerge. Light spreads symmetrically. Photons travel outward in all directions, carrying the memory of the collision, but not the weight of the originals. You feel how beautifully the universe recycles itself. Nothing is wasted. Nothing truly ends. Even in seeming absence, something new is born. In laboratories, these collisions are watched with awe. Detectors capture brief streaks, curved paths, tiny flashes. Each annihilation is a fleeting proof of the universe's ability to transform itself elegantly. Scientists interpret lines and signals, but the particles themselves are indifferent. Their transformation happens regardless of observation, obeying the gentle laws that govern all matter and energy. You let this understanding seep into your awareness. Death and disappearance, at the smallest scales, carry no sorrow. There is no chaos, no panic. There is rhythm, balance, and an almost meditative precision. Annihilation is a return to essence, a soft dissolution into light, a folding back into the energy that sustains everything. You begin to sense the paradox. What seems final is in fact continuous. Each annihilation, though brief, sends ripples across space. Even in emptiness, the energy lingers, shaping future possibilities. Creation and transformation are inseparable. Endings carry the seeds of new beginnings, invisible yet inevitable. You reflect on the intimacy of these processes. They are precise, brief, and total. Each particle contributes fully, then disappears into something larger than itself. Nothing resists, nothing struggles. It is as if the universe has learned the art of letting go while preserving essence, a lesson whispered in flashes of light. You notice how the scale changes depending on perspective. A single annihilation is minuscule, yet collectively, countless events shape galaxies, stars, and cosmic radiation. The universe constantly renews itself in small, almost imperceptible gestures, each one a soft thunder heard only when you listen deeply. The transformation also reminds you of balance. Matter dominated your everyday world because a tiny asymmetry allowed it to persist. Yet antimatter, rare as it is, still plays a crucial role. Its encounters with matter are fleeting, yet their energy carries meaning. Even rare endings leave traces, subtle but significant, shaping the cosmos in ways you can barely perceive. You feel the gentle rhythm of understanding settling over you. Creation, preservation, and transformation are not separate acts. They are steps in a continuous, slow-moving dance. Particles appear, are held, meet, and transform. The cycle is endless. And each moment, from birth to collision, carries beauty in its precise unfolding. In this space, you recognize a quiet intimacy in physics. Forces and energy do not need noise to impress. They speak through pattern, precision, and rhythm. You are witness to these small truths, which feel larger than anything in your immediate life. The universe becomes a companion, not a distant enigma. Your thoughts begin to drift naturally toward the next question. If each collision transforms matter completely into energy, what determined that matter could survive at all? Why is the universe not entirely annihilated, shimmering with only light? That subtle imbalance, that preference for matter, is a gentle curiosity waiting just beyond this moment, hinting at the delicate decisions written into the earliest instants of time. And so, as the last photons of these imagined collisions spread outward, you feel a soft anticipation. The quiet rules that allow matter to exist, the reasons why any structure remains after such gentle thunder, begin to beckon you toward understanding, toward the story of why the universe chose one side of the mirror to persist. You drift now into a space of contemplation, where creation has slowed and collisions have left their gentle traces. The universe is no longer a blur of forming particles. It has settled into something enduring, yet still mysterious. And in this quiet, you sense a question that has been waiting from the beginning: why is there something instead of nothing? Early in time, the universe was nearly perfect in symmetry. For every particle, there was an antimatter twin, opposite and equal. They danced together endlessly, meeting and dissolving, leaving only energy behind. If everything had stayed perfectly balanced, nothing solid would remain. Galaxies would never form. Stars would never burn. You, listening now, would not exist. But the balance was not absolute. A tiny excess of matter survived. One particle out of every billion found no twin to annihilate it. That infinitesimal imbalance is the reason you can feel the weight of the air around you, the warmth of the sun on your skin, the rhythm of your own heartbeat. Existence itself hinges on a fraction of a fraction. You feel the awe of this realization. You are living evidence of a cosmic accident so delicate, so improbable, that it borders on the miraculous. It is as if the universe whispered, just a little more, and the story can continue, and matter leaned forward enough to stay. Symmetry, which once felt comforting, now reveals its subtleties. Breaking symmetry is not disorder. It is opportunity. In the early universe, this slight favor toward matter allowed structures to form. Gas clouds condensed into stars. Stars birthed planets. On one of those planets, chemical reactions eventually gave rise to life. And somewhere along that chain, you became aware enough to wonder why it all exists. You sense that this choice, so minute and yet so consequential, shapes everything that follows. The cosmos carries within it the memory of that initial preference. The laws of physics, the constants of nature, the very patterns of energy and matter, all are tuned by this delicate skew. You feel the poetry in this balance. The universe is not random in its chaos, it is guided by constraints, by tiny biases that allow complexity to flourish. In your mind, you picture those early moments, a dense, searing soup of particles and antiparticles, moving, colliding, annihilating. Each meeting is precise, each transformation essential. And somewhere in that heat, one particle remains unpaired, escaping the fate of its siblings. That one survivor carries with it the promise of all future matter. Everything that will ever form, every planet, every star, every thought, depends on that sliver of asymmetry. You notice the tension between chance and necessity. Was this imbalance an accident, a random flicker in the quantum dance? Or was it baked into the laws of nature, a preference written into reality from the start? The universe does not answer directly. It only shows you the consequence, you, existing, observing, listening. It is humbling to realize how delicate existence is. Tiny shifts, minute differences, almost imperceptible deviations, these are what allow structure, what allow life, what allow consciousness. In this way, the universe teaches patience and attention. The smallest details can hold the greatest weight. As you breathe with this awareness, you notice the beauty in what could have been lost. Matter and antimatter once nearly erased each other, leaving only energy, a formless glow. Yet some imbalance remained, and that tiny residue became the canvas for all creation. Stars burn, clouds drift, oceans ripple, and your own thoughts emerge, all because symmetry was imperfect. This reflection deepens your sense of connection. You are not separate from this cosmic history. You are composed of that excess, a participant in the story that began billions of years ago. Every beat of your heart, every inhalation of air, every thought arises from the outcome of this minuscule favor toward matter. The universe speaks through your presence. You let your imagination wander further. Galaxies swirl because matter outlasted its twin. Planets form because particles clung together, structures emerged, gravity sculpted. The universe seems to balance delicately, as if every choice, every fluctuation, every slight difference matters. The cosmos is patient and meticulous, allowing its creations to evolve slowly, steadily, with intention that feels gentle, if unknowable. And yet, the question lingers softly, like a whisper across a quiet room: did the universe lean toward matter by chance, or by some deep necessity embedded in its laws? Perhaps there is no answer, only the awareness that the small, the rare, and the fleeting have profound consequences. You feel the weight of this lesson, and the comfort in its rhythm. Existence is both fragile and enduring, delicate yet persistent. Your thoughts begin to drift naturally toward the ways this early imbalance touches your world today. Matter survived, stars formed, planets stabilized, and eventually, particles are harnessed in ways that touch your life in medicine, in imaging, in technology. The rare becomes practical. The improbable becomes intimate. What began as a slight skew now resonates through your very body. And so, as you linger with this understanding, the universe seems to breathe with you, whispering that the tiniest preferences can shape everything. That imbalance, so slight, allowed the cosmos to persist. And just beyond this reflection, you sense another quiet story waiting to unfold: how antimatter, so rare yet powerful, touches the world around you, even in ways you cannot see. You now drift inward, closer to your own body, closer to the subtle hum of daily existence. Antimatter may feel distant, a concept from cosmic collisions or high-energy laboratories, but it quietly brushes against your life in ways you rarely notice. It does not appear to threaten or vanish suddenly here. Instead, it arrives as a gentle helper, a whisper of science applied to care. Imagine particles created in a laboratory, floating briefly, then released in carefully controlled ways. Some of these particles become positrons, the antimatter twins of electrons. Alone, they are fleeting and fragile, but guided carefully, they become precise messengers, carrying information about what lies beneath the surface of your body without touching it. They reveal the hidden, the delicate, the unseen. You picture a scan, a PET scan, where these positrons trace paths inside your tissues. They encounter electrons, and in the quiet meeting, energy bursts into light. This light is captured, mapped, and translated into images of astonishing clarity. You see your own body's inner landscape, illuminated not by intrusive instruments, but by fleeting collisions of the rarest kind. Antimatter becomes a gentle guide, revealing without harm. Even in treatment, antimatter's touch is subtle. It can help scientists understand radiation, allowing them to refine therapies for cancer, to target tissues with precision, sparing what is healthy. The annihilation of particles, something so tiny and seemingly violent, is harnessed with care. In the laboratory, scientists orchestrate these rare events with patience, creating order from what might otherwise seem destructive. You feel a quiet appreciation for this paradox. Annihilation, which can seem final or dramatic, becomes a form of insight and care. The rarest explosions, the briefest bursts of energy, are used to heal and to reveal. Science does not always seek spectacle. Sometimes it leans gently, almost compassionately, toward life. This connection between antimatter and your body is intimate. The particles themselves do not linger, yet their effects persist in the understanding and care they enable. Your own existence is shaped by countless interactions like this, mostly invisible, delicate, orchestrated with precision. You begin to notice the poetry in it. The universe itself participates in your well-being, through processes so small you can barely perceive them. You imagine the paths of positrons, swirling gently, meeting electrons, releasing energy in soft bursts. Each flash is a signal, a quiet communication. It is not chaos, it is language. It tells you what is healthy, what is needing attention. In this way, even the rarest particles carry care, turning the ephemeral into insight, the invisible into knowledge. You sense how remarkable it is that something so transient can have such lasting influence. Antimatter's brief existence mirrors the delicacy of life itself. The same principles that govern distant galaxies and particle collisions now serve a human purpose: to see, to understand, to heal. The cosmos, once abstract and far, has folded itself gently into your own story. The energy released in these micro-annihilations travels just far enough to be measured, to inform, without overwhelming. Nothing is wasted, nothing is violent for its own sake. You feel the elegance in this balance. What could vanish instantly is transformed into guidance, into illumination, into knowledge. It is quiet power, harnessed softly. You think about your own awareness of these processes. Most of the time, you do not notice them. Yet they are present, a subtle foundation for your health, for medicine, for understanding. Science becomes intimate and protective, not abstract or distant. Antimatter, the rarest and most fragile of cosmic players, participates in life in a gentle, purposeful way. As you breathe in, you imagine yourself as part of this unfolding story. Your body, composed of matter, interacts indirectly with antimatter every day. Not in danger, but in dialogue. The universe itself seems mindful, offering tools, patterns, and processes that allow life to continue, to be understood, and to thrive. You sense the rhythm of this relationship: creation, careful guidance, brief meeting, transformation, and insight. The same cycle that shaped stars and galaxies now assists the human body. The rarest particles, floating briefly, remind you that fragility can be beautiful, precision can be powerful, and fleeting existence can carry meaning. And as you settle into this awareness, you notice the gentle anticipation of a larger, cosmic rhythm. Beyond your body, beyond the lab, beyond Earth itself, antimatter continues to wander and collide, shaping the universe in ways grander than you can yet perceive. Its story extends outward, leading naturally toward the vast theater of galaxies and cosmic collisions that awaits your attention next. You rise now from the intimate scale of the human body to the vastness of space, where the universe performs its quiet experiments on a grand scale. Antimatter here is no longer carefully trapped or guided by human hands. It drifts freely, born in cosmic furnaces, carried across galaxies by high-energy currents, waiting for its fleeting moment of transformation. Its existence feels enormous, yet invisible, like a soft pulse that runs through the fabric of everything. You imagine a distant galaxy, billions of light-years away. Stars are burning, exploding, and dying in cycles that repeat endlessly. In supernovae and other energetic events, particles are accelerated to unimaginable speeds. Collisions happen constantly, tiny sparks in the immense theater of space. Some of these sparks are antimatter particles, moving freely, occasionally meeting matter in brief, luminous interactions. Cosmic rays, traveling through the emptiness of space, carry these particles across unimaginable distances. They reach planets, including your own, whispering stories older than any tree, any mountain, any human thought. They arrive silently, penetrating the atmosphere, leaving traces that hint at the vast choreography of matter and antimatter unfolding beyond sight. You feel a sense of awe at the scale of these events. Where a laboratory confines particles to milliseconds, the cosmos allows them to exist across eons. Their paths are dictated by gravity, magnetic fields, and chance encounters. Each collision, though rare in any single place, contributes to the ongoing evolution of galaxies and the interstellar medium. The universe itself becomes an endless laboratory, conducting experiments without pause. You sense your own smallness, but also your connection. The particles that brush past your planet, or enter your atmosphere, are part of the same story that gave rise to matter in your body, to stars in your night sky, to the very breath you take. You are tiny in comparison, yet intrinsically linked to these cosmic rhythms. Every atom, every particle, is a participant in this ongoing dialogue. You imagine traveling alongside one of these cosmic rays, soaring past nebulae and supernova remnants. You see antimatter created naturally in the chaos of explosions, momentarily suspended in magnetic fields, racing across the void, and sometimes encountering matter in flashes of energy. These interactions are peaceful yet profound, quietly shaping the universe, teaching balance and transformation on a scale impossible to replicate on Earth. Even the rarest collisions have meaning. Each burst of energy contributes to cosmic radiation, to the heating of gas clouds, to the formation of new stars. Antimatter here is not a novelty. It is part of the ecosystem of the cosmos, a participant in the rhythm of creation and destruction, of energy exchanged and recycled endlessly. You notice a poetic symmetry in all this. Just as humans use antimatter to understand their own bodies, the cosmos uses antimatter to shape galaxies and stars. The scale may differ, but the principle remains: fleeting particles, guided by forces and chance, transform energy into structure, chaos into pattern. It is a reminder that the same rules apply, whether in a laboratory on Earth or a supernova across the universe. Your awareness drifts to the idea of time. The antimatter that exists in cosmic rays today may have been born billions of years ago, traveling across space, carrying the memory of creation itself. These particles are ancient travelers, witnesses to the birth of stars, the collision of galaxies, the slow unfolding of cosmic history. They remind you that existence is vast and enduring, and that your own life is a brief yet meaningful echo of these grand processes. You feel the gentle power of perspective. While your own experiences are small and fleeting, they are connected to these immense cosmic events. Matter and antimatter dance not only in your body or in a laboratory, but also across the universe, in ways both subtle and monumental. You sense continuity, a thread weaving together human curiosity and cosmic rhythm, fragility and endurance. And as your mind drifts further outward, the story of cosmic collisions begins to fold back toward reflection. Annihilation, transformation, and energy are not just phenomena in laboratories or in stars. They hold meaning, lessons about endings, beginnings, and the impermanence that shapes the universe itself. The soft patterns of these collisions lead naturally to a deeper meditation on how disappearance and transformation resonate through every scale of existence, inviting you inward again, toward understanding the quiet meaning of annihilation. You drift now into a space of reflection, where all the journeys of particles, mirrors, and cosmic dances converge. You carry with you the story of matter and antimatter, of creation and careful holding, of collisions and the faint hum of energy. Here, the universe feels close, intimate, and patient, as if it has been waiting for you to notice its quiet lessons. Annihilation is no longer frightening. It is not destruction, not chaos, not loss. It is transformation. Matter and antimatter meet, and in the gentle surrender of their forms, energy is released. Mass becomes light. Particles dissolve into waves. The universe shows you that endings are not failures. They are the natural next step in a cycle that is continuous, elegant, and soft. You imagine each particle's brief life, from its birth in energy, to its delicate suspension in fields, to its eventual meeting with a twin. Every step is fleeting, every moment precious. The final release into energy is not violent. It is precise, intentional, a final bow that leaves the world enriched rather than diminished. There is intimacy here, as though the universe itself performs a slow, careful ritual of letting go. Energy does not vanish. You feel it spread outward, traveling through space, carrying the memory of its source. Photons radiate, cosmic rays continue, and even in your body, traces of these processes whisper through the instruments of medicine and observation. Transformation leaves a mark, however subtle, a reminder that existence is resilient, adaptable, and patient. You notice how this principle echoes beyond particles. Life, thoughts, ideas, and moments also move through cycles of emergence, interaction, and change. The universe teaches you that release is not loss. Even disappearance is a transition, a shift into another form of being. The fleeting and fragile carry meaning precisely because they do not linger indefinitely. There is a rhythm in this understanding. Birth, suspension, meeting, transformation, release. You sense the pattern in nature, in stars and galaxies, in your own body, and in the quiet currents of your mind. The universe is not chaotic. It is ordered by these rhythms, precise yet soft, complex yet comforting. You realize that endings are part of continuity, not exceptions to it. As you sink deeper into this meditation, you sense a profound intimacy with the cosmos. You are not separate from the energy that has flowed through eons, nor from the antimatter that once existed alongside matter in equal abundance. Everything is interconnected, each tiny interaction a thread in a vast, shimmering tapestry. Even your awareness is part of this ongoing flow. You reflect on impermanence, on the beauty of things that cannot last, on the gentle inevitability of change. Antimatter has shown you that disappearance can be purposeful, that transformation is natural, and that even endings can be luminous. You carry this lesson inward, letting it settle in your mind like a soft glow. Your breath slows. Thoughts drift like faint currents. The universe seems to breathe with you, expanding and contracting gently, endlessly, without hurry. The energy that once formed particles now travels across galaxies, through your body, through this quiet awareness, linking beginnings and endings, life and reflection, presence and absence. And as your mind softens into calm, you sense that the story is not over. Each particle, each collision, each transformation is a reminder that the universe is patient, that energy persists, and that endings are merely preludes to new beginnings. Even in silence, the cosmos whispers, what disappears is never gone entirely, it simply changes its language, inviting you to listen closely to the next unfolding moment.